Hi everybody, welcome. This is the very first episode of Blockchain with Bankless, where I'm hoping to provide you with a platform for learning. We're going to speak with some of the industry's finest thought leaders, starting with KardiaChain's CTO and co-founder, Huy Nguyen. Okay, Huy, it's good to see you. We've talked privately.
Good to see you, Banks.
The odd time, but it's nice to see you in person. I'm excited to get chatting to you today on behalf of the community. Everybody's really excited to hear from you, so let's get started. We'll begin by going back a way. How did this all begin? You obviously from Vietnam yourself, but you ended up over at UC Berkeley in California, one of the best universities in the world. I think it's number 6 in the world reputation-wise.
All right. So thank you very much, Bang. It's my pleasure to be here today to chat with you and also to the beloved KardiaChain communities. So I would love to share as much as I can. So I was born and raised up in Vietnam, like a pretty poor country during the 80s, 90s times. I have my educations in Vietnam, and after high school, then I came to US and joined UC Berkeley in the computer science and electrical engineering program. Cool. So Berkeley is one of the top university on technologies per se. That is where I learned a lot about infrastructure, technologies, platforms, many different, fundamental stuff that helps a lot when I finally joined, Google's and KardiaChain today.
Yeah. And were you aware of some of the alumni that have came from Berkeley, like Steve Wozniacki, the creator of Apple?
Right.
I was looking up some, fun facts about Berkeley, and apparently there's 25 billionaires living today who came from Berkeley. So hopefully you'll be number 26, Huy.
Thank you very much. I wish so.
Yeah, there's been so many innovations and innovators that have been produced by Berkeley. It's exciting, it excites me, somebody who likes to invest in people as much as I like to invest in businesses and ideas. So it's exciting to know that you're at the helm, when it comes to KardiaChain, you and Tree, and somebody with a 3.91 out of 4.0, it's exceptional, result to get in your degree. I know you're probably quite humble and you're not going to go shouting that from the rooftops yourself, but that's pretty impressive.
Thank you for the compliments. I mean, after a long while, I finally heard back about my track record in school and such. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Must be a bit of a bookworm.
Oh, well, I mean, I didn't expect you to dig deep into my school record.
You know me, I love to dive deep into the research.
Yeah.
That's what I try to do with my articles, just to provide some in-depth, analysis of projects. And there's so much, within KardiaChain, I could write another 4 articles.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, on behalf of KardiaChain, I would like to give you a big warm hug for awesome articles. It's one of the best, I have seen on Medium. Yeah, so thank you very much.
No, you're very welcome. I'm humbled that you've even read them, so I'm glad to be able to provide some content for the community, and I'm glad it's been so well received. It just shows you, with the 4 articles that I've written, I've never seen a bad comment, from anybody who's read them. And that's not about me or my writing. It's about the project. There's just nothing that you can, FUD about this project. So it's exciting. I'm glad to be a part of it now.
Thank you, Banks.
So we'll move on and kind of take a look at how how did you go from Berkeley, to Google? Google, obviously, one of the largest companies in the world, and they're well known for only hiring the best, the top talent in the world. And they've brought you in from Berkeley, obviously on the back of your excellent degree score. How do you then go from your career at Google, a large centralized enterprise, one of the biggest in the world, to now moving into the decentralized realm of cryptocurrency and blockchain with KardiaChain?
Right. So after Berkeley, then I joined Google a little more than 10 years ago. And then I have been working on the infrastructure front, doing a lot of stuff in the very low level, the kinds of thing that have propelling the blockchain technologies later when I learn about it. So during my years at Google and Berkeley, I came to know my other friends who are also the tech lead of KardiaChain today, like Tien, Huy, and Nam. And together we work together, we learn together, and then we study about blockchain together as well.
Yeah.
So come back to your questions. I think during the time at Google, I think I learned so much. It helps to shape me to become where I am today. So Berkeley teach me about technologies and a very fundamental piece of doing something special. Coming to Google, we try to challenge ourselves and try to do something, try to tackle the more impossible. So if you know about Google, actually try to do many things that people wouldn't have thought that is possible before, right? And I remember the first projects coming in at Google, my manager just give me something like impossible task, right? And then I was sort of telling him how to do it. And he was just saying, like, if I know how to do it, I wouldn't give it to you. So that ties up mentality and spirit is very unique, right? In the earlier days of Google. And that shaped me on the spirit wise and the culture wise and the way I approach problems. So back to your questions about moving from Google as one of the more centralized company to a complete, decentralization world as blockchain. I think there's actually more synergies than differences. Both, blockchain world and Google or any other company in the Silicon Valley, fundamentally they try to bring value. They try to do something different and bring in value to the mass, right? So I am not kind of an extreme type who think that everything must be centralization or everything must be decentralization. It should be somewhere in between, right? Even people think that Google is the most centralization company in the world. Actually, there are many projects within Google that was designed decentralized from the beginning, right? It's just that the technology behind shouldn't matter. Is actually at the end is the applications that people see and feel. So many things. I don't know if I can name anything more like NDA agreement over there, but many things you see in Google day to day is actually empowered by blockchain technologies.
Is that right? Okay.
So right. So at the end, right, blockchain is just a technologies, right? And whatever we do, it's just to bring in more value. If it makes more sense to do blockchains, then we'll do blockchains. Coming to cryptocurrency now. Cryptocurrency is one kind of applications on top of blockchain technologies, right? So cryptocurrency is another thing that I think company like Google is a little more hesitate to participate in. Right? But all the application Google does use blockchain.
Okay, so what do you think would be the stumbling block for Google to consider cryptocurrency? Is it to do with the regulatory side of it and the confusion as to how it matches up alongside fiat?
I think if anything, Silicon Valley people would be at the forefront of anything of this disruptive nature. you can see Facebook already trying to do their own Libra, right? And have to fight a lot in front of the what is it called, the government for
the governments
for that, right? So the technology is there. It will be at the right times and the right you know, people to make it happen, right? So I disagree that people think Google's or Facebook or Microsoft or whatever company is behind in this race. They are not. They are forefront, right? It's just that they're just waiting for the right time to strike it.
Okay, the perfect opportunity type thing. I don't know if you've ever read George Gilder's book, Life After Google. He says, Google and its world are looking in the wrong direction. They are actually in jeopardy. Not from an all-powerful artificial intelligence, but from a distributed peer-to-peer revolution supporting human intelligence, the blockchain and a new crypto efflorescence. Vitalik Buterin and his allies are dedicated to restoring data to its originators and incorporating it horizontally and interoperatively across the cryptocosm. So he's kind of suggesting that maybe Google are getting left behind, but it's interesting what you've said, being a Google employee. That's probably not the case. They're not being left behind. They are working behind the scenes.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure that Google right now is so big of a company, right? So it's very hard to say that whether one way or another is the right way. I mean, I do see people working on all different sort of technologies at Google. It's just a question of strategy and priorities that the leader is gonna put on it, right? Whether they're gonna push for one directions versus the other. But yeah, I do see many you know, blockchain technologies projects. My journey is actually a little different, right? Because I didn't research or know too much about blockchain, to be honest, until I met Chi back in Vietnam 3 years ago. And that was after the crazy bullish Bitcoin run at the end of 2017. So that's when that was one of the, you know, aha moment where I read the first book, the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technologies by some of the professor in Princeton. I recommend everybody to read it, by the way. I think there's a Bible of you know, blockchain and cryptocurrencies. I don't know, you read it?
I haven't read that, no. I mean, I've read Safety in a Moose and the Bitcoin Standard. Such an interesting topic, you know, especially with everything that's going on in the world today in regards to money printing and, you know, inflation. It's just, it's scary. So when you read these books about Bitcoin and the potential for blockchain, it all kind of clicks and makes sense. But, you know, for myself as an investor and a community member, you know, it's important to try and learn from people like yourself who understand, you know, blockchain at its very core. You know, you've obviously studied distributed systems and, you know, you have a different level of knowledge compared to the average person. So it's much appreciated that you're here to share that knowledge with us.
Right. So when I read the book, I just click in right within 5 minutes, and then I spend the next week just to, you know, digest it and read it completely. So that was the first time I truly think I understand what blockchains and cryptocurrency really is. So I have quite some experience in infrastructure, distributed system, you know, computer architectures and things like that. So then blockchain just become a new way of suffering the blocks, right? So at the bottom level, it is the same, right? So whether it's a, you know, server client versus peer-to-peer, whether it's a, you know, MySQL way of organizing a database versus the distributed ledger technologies, right? Whether it is a centralized way, master-led, master-slave sort of thing. and moving into a more consensus, like proof of work or proof of stake or BFT or whatsoever. So then it just like opened a complete new horizon for me. Like it's just the same block, it's just a different way of arranging it and making it a new complete, you know, ecosystem. That's what I fell in love right away with the technologies, right? And then I liked it. But at that time, actually, informations about blockchains, like a real code, you know, a proof of stake is still an idea. Tendermint was not there yet. Even EOS was still in development. So pretty much all the code I can find were just Ethereum's, right? And it is a proof of work sort of code. So I prototype my own chain with a proof of stake and BFT and learn more about it. Then it comes the second sort of like eureka moment when we come up with an idea about KardiaChain. Is that answering your questions? Or?
Yeah, no, that is. It's interesting. It's leading us up to something obviously that's you know, to me, to the average person, like I'm still struggling to understand blockchain, you know, and here's you coming up with a new way to do blockchain, you know, with your dual node technology. So kind of enlighten us a bit on that. How did it come to fruition?
The dual node idea start to shaping in my head. It's actually high performance distributed system. So the idea of having a dual kinds of thing was sort of natural for me. It's just that I don't know how to put the right piece in the right place, right? So I it was just like giving birth to a baby. I was having that idea for a long time, playing around it, but seeing all kinds of barriers or problems. And then I remember vividly that day was when I was supposed to go on a business trip to North Carolina. And then in the morning, I called Chi before because he was in London at that time. So I was calling him and say, I have a feeling that something is coming up, is forming up. I'm so close to getting that last piece in, which is really the dual node concept. Like open two port, one to connect to one chain and another one to connect to Kardia. And how to make the two, you know, actually talk to each other and understand, like do the translation part. That was the last piece that I need to glue before I can get these whole things done. So I think I show you the original, you know, paper.
Yes,
so
I'll share that. I will share that with the community.
Right, so I jumped onto the airplane and then was thinking and writing all formulas. And then when I run out of paper, then I beat, right? You need to draw this into that, and then he start to draw. So the one that you saw was actually him drawing on a napkin's paper.
Your idea.
And I think it's just so fun because I was just so afraid. Those eureka moments, you usually come just, you know,
in a flash,
and then it will go right away. So basically, dual node is just the core of KardiaChain, right? So everything was built around that, and then KSML and, you know, eSwim and other algorithms that is in support of the dual node concept. And I think that what makes KardiaChain special.
I mean, in the space, obviously the word interoperability it's used often. It popped up in 2017 and became a real buzzword. There was all different projects suggesting that they were going to be the answer to interoperability. Do you think that KardiaChain have created something that is the answer? It is the solution to the interoperability problem for enterprise specifically?
Right. So there's always a journey from finding a solution to the core problems and making it useful and valuable for people. I think we learned that lesson the hard way. So by 2018, we comes up with that idea in a white paper, and then it took me and my friends like a few weeks, let's say, you know, half a month or so to prototype it and write the first, you know, KardiaChain solutions. So the DAX was done in only a few months. So the DAX that we just launched today, if you read the news, it actually was done by us back in September 2018. We thought that we solved the interoperable problems. We think that that must be big, right? Like everybody gonna love KardiaChain and everything. But I think what we were missing is how to make people truly understand it and how to be able to really bring value. Like being able to do an exchange of value and information from Ethereum to Neo to Tron the way that we do today is very cool. However, is that really needed? Back at that time, everybody look at it and say, cool, you do something very cool. But that's pretty much it, right? I actually think that not so many people actually use the DEX, even if we have it up today, right? Maybe only a few, but I give it a try. So so then that was a challenge that we faced. And by the end of 2018, I was asked to come back. Vietnam has a sort of like a program that every year they bring Vietnamese from everywhere in the world back and trying to build a next generations of Vietnamese leader and such. So we were invited back, and was during this day that we figure that Vietnam gonna be the next how to say it, China, right? With a growth. Right? So so then it was a hard decision, but the team decided that in order to make this work and truly bring value, we need to start. We can think big, but we need to start small. We need to start somewhere. That is why we bring the business team back first to explore the country further. Even though it was our motherland, it has been like more than 15 years since I left, right? So it was a little hard at first to get back and get into the lifestyle, understand the locals and everything. But then we figure maybe the right way to solve is to start with business in Vietnam. Business, government, trying to figure out a way to make the current existing business model work with the new technologies. Maybe without them even know about blockchains under the hood, right? And then for certain business, we might be able to convince them that it's actually better than the business that they're running today. So that is where we start to tailor our solution a little bit more onto the business side of things, like a private chain, like a hybrid chain, rather than a public chain that can do the sort of Neo to Ether alone, right? And I think that approach seems to work okay. Even today, we still have a very good relationship with the government in general and many private business in Vietnam, and trying to apply the technologies for that.
And when you're talking to these enterprises, I know we have, you've got news out there in the open already about Galeximco and multiple other, large enterprises like LG, CNS, who are massive, worldwide. I believe that they're going to be pretty big in 5G as well, which is a huge investment opportunity for many, that arena. How do these enterprises react to you when you come? Is it a difficult pitch, or are they ready for it?
I could say it is difficult, but I think people are open to it. People are open to let us come in and try. There is no existing, framework like the US or the Europe that we have to compete, right? So the ocean is big. And also in Vietnam, apart from KardiaChain, I think there's only two other chains, which is a Tomo chains and Naka chains, right? So we don't really have any direct competitors in that sense. We have a lot of business to come and talk and provide our solutions. I could say we met like more than hundreds different business, large and small. We came to the final round, sort of proposing a solution and build for tens of them. And some of them we already saw the result, right? On the partnership that were already announced, and many more to come. I could say that it getting easier as we go. It was a lot harder last year. it was getting easier recently, maybe with the growth of the company in general and the trust that we built with all the bigger, you know, partners, right? But all in all, I think we learned a lot in that path. We learned many lessons the hard way. Also, I think in one of the interview, G talked to Pratt recently. He did mentions about it. I think we were trying to do so many things at the beginning.
Yes.
Now we know the scope much better.
Yeah.
We focus on only a few industry, a few area that we're really good at, and we can really bring value in, right? So we chose more on the entertainment, sports, you know, media side of thing, education side of thing, because it's targeting a younger generations, and we do believe that younger generation will be the one who will be more open into blockchain in general. Right?
And one thing I think the community would like to kind of understand is whereabouts does the Kai token fit into, you know, this token economy or whatever you want to call it? How does it get used by the everyday person?
So let me give you an example of the youth unions apps that we already launched, right? So remember, one of the two apps we have is on sport and youth union, right?
Yes.
So there are different concepts where we can use Kai on the day-to-day sort of business. So for example, for the youth union, if the youngster, like the students, they doing their day-to-day tasks required by the union, they'll get some Kai, right? And those Kai will be paid by the sponsor or by the youth union themselves. For example, if Coca-Cola want to ask the student to buy a Coke and take the pictures of them opening that, or enjoy it with a friend, or follow Coke on the Facebook or Twitter, or create a trend, they would do that. And the student would happily comes in and finish the task to earn the Kai. And
so it acts
and of
almost
course
like
the sponsor wanna pay.
It acts like an incentive system type thing, and it's a reward within that incentive system.
Right. So it could be called something like social mining, for example. Right. It have the same sort of concept. So Kai, that way, we think that it could, it is an easy way to get people to start to have Kai and use Kai in the day-to-day experience. We try to partner with many, you know, merchandise that gonna let the people exchange Kai for their stuff, right? So Mylink is just an example of transportation taxi. People earn the Kai, now they can spend the Kai. Of course, there are legal implications in using Kai as replacement for VND. That is something we need to continue to work with the government front to shape the landscape. I could say there was no clear landscape on what is legal and what is not. So we try to avoid that kinds of legal implications. We work with the government. We're trying to understand as much as possible and stay close to give any sort of consultant needed. Also, we shape our business around that to make sure that Kai can be used, can be earned, and can be spent. Okay.
And in regards to the telco partnership, now I'm not going to name any names, but the numbers on the website, 60 million users before the end of the year. What will those users be able to do with the Kai token, and how will they purchase them via their phone?
So we how to put it, as the NDA per se, is a sensitive topic in general. All I can say is we're actually working with multiple telcos, and
That's bullish.
and also right? And not only telcos, but also many other different, big businesses that have different ideas of using blockchain technologies in
Okay.
general. So the one that you were mentioning was more targeting on the how to put it, like a mobile money sort of thing. So
Yes.
people can actually use their mobile to pay for different things, Kai
Okay.
being one of them, right? So that is the main idea of building that infrastructure, so people can actually use their mobile to buy Kai.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Like, to be able to bring a cryptocurrency to that many users at once, it shows that your plan for, you know, partnering with large enterprises who already have built a user base and just moving your idea onto their user base it's definitely something that's very exciting, for the community, and we're all looking forward to the arrival of mainnet
Right,
in that regard.
and to be, I mean, more than that, it's not the only thing that blockchain can have
Yeah.
in general telco experience. Right, I could say there are more than one thing. There could be a multiple thing sort of project going on. You knows about all of the partnership we have on the DID front, in the bidding
Yes.
front. All of these could be very useful for telco and a big corporations per se.
Yeah. Yes, I think the digital or the decentralized identification market is an exciting one. Um, do you see yourselves as becoming a leader in that market in Southeast Asia?
Um, so if I don't know how much you or the company knows in general about the ID, but decentralized ID is a brilliant concept.
Yes.
The more I read about it, the more I was amazed, right? And we have partners. We have multiple partners in the alliance that is really good at providing a DID solution and proven and working in Korea already. We try to do something similar in Vietnam as well. We are testing it, we are staging it at this point, and I think we'll try to provide more update when the right time to come.
Okay, I'll look forward to that. Um, so you say you touched on it before. You came back to Vietnam because you've seen the enormous growth potential. It's not just a possibility; it's happening. That the GDP growth there over the past few years has been incredible. Compared to most parts of the world, where GDP growth is kind of stagnating. Um, do you see yourself taking the next couple of years to, kind of monopolize blockchain within Vietnam before spreading out further in Southeast Asia?
So I think choosing Vietnam is a pretty natural move for us, right?
Mm.
So we are
Yes.
Vietnamese. We try to come back. We try to,
Yeah.
build something that we can be proud of. I mean,
Yeah.
10 years overseas, 15 years overseas, and 10
Yeah.
years at Google is pretty much a journey for me already. So I come back and I also see a very good opportunity to bring everything to the next level. We saw, Vietnamese overseas coming back more and more nowadays. It reminds me of, China 15
Yes.
years, 20 years ago, when the
Yes.
first, Tencent and Alibaba and Baidu was
Yeah.
built. So Vietnam doesn't have a clear winners at this point. So it's still an open field
Yeah.
for everybody to come and do and innovate and bring
Yes.
value, right?
Yeah.
So of course, I would like to see KardiaChain on the path to become one of the bigger leaders in our field. But that at the end, though, to be honest, is not my ultimate goal. I want to bring value
Yes.
back to my homeland, right? So in whatever form that is gonna take shape, whether Kardia gonna make that move or Kardia is just one of the pioneers to push Vietnam forward, I think that's good. And as a for frontend, we will always be in the front to do many different things. Yeah, so I think that is a most important part, and if KardiaChain happens to be the chosen one, I would be so happy.
Yeah, well, I like the way you look at it. You know, if you're going to be bringing value, then, you know, KardiaChain's success will most likely be a byproduct of you attempting to bring value. You know, if you bring value, then you're going to be successful. Is there anything else that you would like to bring to the community's attention? Is there anything that you feel that the community itself maybe lack understanding in? You maybe see it on Twitter, you see it in these the Telegram groups. Is there anything that you feel that you would like the community to know and understand a bit better?
So firstly, I would like to say that I was so impressed by our communities. Like, people are very hardcore, are true believers, and you guys are the inspirations and motivation that you know, push us every day coming to work. We have been working on KardiaChain for more than 2 years now, going through you know, very bad year, various years in general, and going through the COVID as well. But we stay the same. We stay the same focus. We have the same missions and vision that we are building, and that has not changed. We saw the price going up and down, and people being panicked and worries. But fundamentally, it's gonna take time to make the whole system like KardiaChain to go to the next level. Also, it is the scope and the visions will not stop right there. Will not stop at the minute. Will not stop at the next application we're gonna build. It's gonna be more than that. It's gonna be whatever bringing value in and make KardiaChain the product of choice. Many people ask me why KardiaChain and not Ethereum or any other system. Like, I mean, business in Vietnam, a local business leader in Vietnam, they have the same question. Why not? We are not using Ethereum. Why we're not using just another chain, but KardiaChain? So Kardia is tailored to start with in Vietnam and try to bring the value to the exact market that we try to dominate, and we try to bring value in. So that will be our vision, at least to next year, right? Until we are sure that we can create something you know, sustainable. Right? So I think our product pipeline is pretty full from now to the end of the year. We'll continue to put more announcement on our partnership and our products, and hopefully that will bring more confidence to our investor and communities about the progress that we made. For me personally, I am not a crypto trader. I'm a blockchain believer. So most of the time I just hold. I don't really trade.
I'm the same. I think it's important, you know, for people in the community to try and zoom out a bit. You know, you go into the groups and it's just, if the price is going up, everybody's going to be a millionaire. If the price is going down, it's over. You know, the story's over. It's just, it's something that involves lack of education. I think people need to understand that the low time preference mentality of being able to see, you know, longer into the future is the only one that's going to win long term. There's so many people in the groups that think they're traders and whatnot, but in the end, it's all about finding value and strong fundamentals. And I think we've got that with KardiaChain, and the fact that everything is in the road ahead, it's not behind us like a lot of the other projects. You know, that's what's the exciting play here.
Right. So I think I'm one of the few one in my company that actually don't check the price every day. I think she always have a big screen with the price in his office, but I rarely come there to see. I want to stay laser focused on the product and the
Yeah.
value that we create. My personal belief is in 5 to 10 years, we will see blockchain is a
Everywhere.
huge thing, similar to cloud computing in the past few years, similar to AI that has been taking
Yes.
off in the last few years also. And by then, nobody would care about whether the project has been, perform or outperform a little bit on a particular date. Right?
Exactly. You mentioned cloud computing there. I noticed today that you announced a partnership with Anchor Network. Can you elaborate a bit on that? What's that going to involve?
So Anchor is a great partner in helping us, running our networks securely. Performance-wise is better, cost-wise is also better, and they provide a great support in general to make the platform truly the platform of choice, especially for a tailored need for the DEX, right? Where we have to participate in many different blockchain networks like Tron, EO, Ethereum. We figure DEX is just one. It's just the first apps that we're gonna be running on Anchor. We're also running our test net over there, and presumably the mainnet, many part of that would be on Anchor. Also, I could say it is one of the best experience we will have compared to other cloud computing service, like even like Amazon or GCE. Yeah.
Another thing that's kind of came out this week, FUD, if you will, about this scenario with the ex-team member. Do you want to shed any light on that for the community, or?
Sure. It's actually unfortunate to see that happen. I feel actually very embarrassed to have to go through that with our investor and communities. It was a very hard decision that the team has to debate internally whether it's a good idea to bring it up. But at the end, we try to keep our principles, which is complete transparency. I would like to say sorry and apologize to anybody who's impacted in any ways due to this incident. We're trying our best to fix it. So in general, we actually investigated this incident a little earlier. When we saw a massive drop in price right after the IEO open in gate, we understand that the situation was tough because it was in the peak of COVID and everything. But regardless of whatever we did at that time, the price just continued to slide, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's turned out to be something that's given yourselves an opportunity to show your true, value and the morals or core values that you have within the foundation. You've been honest, you've been transparent, and you've addressed it. You've been in the community yourself. I've seen you chatting in Telegram, explaining the situation and, kind of helping investors get their head around it. And it's turned out to be a positive in my mind. Those tokens are locked now. They're not going to be sold on market like they could have been, had you not spotted it early. So it's been a good thing, really, and really well handled.
Yeah, thank you. Like I say, I understand the pain that people have to go through. Like if I'm the communities, I would feel pretty, concerned in general. So I try my best, and my team also try our best to be transparent and to be there with the committee answering any questions you might have. Like I say, I still believe fundamentally everything will be okay as long as blockchain really becoming new technologies. But we understand the concern that committee have, so we always try to be here, and I'll continue to be there to monitor the situation. It's not completely done yet, right? You can see it from the announcement. Like we only know what we know, and and we still assess the situations. That's why we don't make any abrupt decision at this point. But any decision that KardiaChain will make in the future will definitely be in the best interests of the communities. And hopefully by then we can regain the trust.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you've lost any trust. I'm a member of the community myself. If anything, I would say you've gained trust, because you've been so transparent with it, and you've been proactive in going out there and trying to discover what the issue was. So it's been impressive, and like I said, it's been very well handled. We had some technical difficulties, let's just say. I'm glad you're joining me again today, so that we can go through.
Hopefully today is better.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I've got my Wi-Fi sorted out. I've got some questions from the community that I wanted to go through with you, so we'll get started on that. Let me just get them up on my screen. Okay, so question number 1 is Kai Mainnet is scheduled for Q4 2020. Could you tell us how this process, or how the process is coming along? Will there be more dual nodes for Kai? Good question.
All right, so question about tech finally.
Yeah.
So I could say we are progressing fine. We are about 90 to 95% done with all the critical features for a good mainnet in general. So the last step, but also sort of like the most important one, would be stress testing, performance, security, privacy, all sort of different certificate that we need to make sure we are passing. So that is a main difference from a test net and a production one, where you actually deal with real money. So we are still targeting end of the year. That is a very viable and reasonable target to hit. We were working with multiple sort of like certificate vendor to help us making sure everything is going fine. We don't have a lot of rush toward launching a half-baked products, right? Because we do believe that there will be quite a lot of traffic once the mainnet is launched, and also the vision and the timeline, the roadmap for the mainnet would actually span across next year also. At least for now, I can envision multiple upgrade until the end of next year. Some of the question was about whether we're gonna have more dual nodes coming in. That would be scheduled for next year as the first upgrade, where we can actually have the DEX that we just launched yesterday to be launched. Right.
Okay, that's exciting.
So we're working with we're working with a few different partners at this point that I don't want to name yet, but I think the community will be excited to know when we start adding the dual nodes.
Okay.
Basically, we're on track. We're on track for the mainnet.
Okay. See, in relation to mainnet and testnet, I've seen in the past Tree talk with Brad about revenue that's already coming in for KardiaChain and the foundation. Does that come in? Are these pilot schemes being done on the testnet or the mainnet?
No, we don't have any mainnet. We don't have any public mainnet. That's what I should say right now. So the archive testnet is the one that you guys see right now. We do have the private sort of like production network that we deploy in a few partners that we have. For those, it's easier because it's more in a control environment, right? So the security concern and performance concern are gonna be less. So we launched a few of them since last year till now. But for the public mainnet, that's where you're very vulnerable to attack and everything. We need to be a little more careful.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, we'll move on to question number 2. That is, smart cities are an area that Kai wishes to help mold and develop. Can you provide a few examples of the improvements that you foresee?
Right. So smart city is a very buzzword. I would say there's so many things that you could do in that sense. So blockchainizing, digitalizing the data is one big way of happening into smart cities. So I think I was answering one of your questions earlier, where I mentioned that we want to have a more focused approach, where we actually tackle only a few area and try to do them very well. So one of the things KardiaChain has been quite actively working on was on the educations together with so basically blockchainizing the student record, trying to link them together with professional career and link them also to decentralized ID and such. So to give you one example, even with linking today, it's impossible for you to actually verify whether I work at Google or not. I think some of the committee have the questions before, right? Yes. It's actually, you have to trust the system, and there's no way for linking to verify certain things. You might just fake your profile all the way, right? But the way Kardia were building one of the educational system is starting from the elementary school, we start to track the student and use blockchains to enter their grade and keep a track record. Then when they go to the middle school, high school, college, all of those records will be linked by different entities. So that is a hybrid solution, having the school as a private entities, working with all the private entities, going through blockchain to KardiaChain as a public or hybrid solution to track all of the different records that they can show publicly, or they can hide it privately before they back in. And then all of them, we're going to use some zero proof knowledge to link them together and combine them to give a full record. When you go to professional career, you can easily track all the way down of the student's record. Right? So that is one of the few things we're working with the government. We're also working on the we're also working with the Minister of Justice, to Department of Justice, to organize all of the record using the same method together with the DID solution. That we'll talk about that soon.
That sounds great. Obviously, that's going to make things much more efficient for government entities, and those types of things are generally slow in every area in the world. Here, social services, to anything like that, it takes a long time. Even a passport, I washed my passport in the washing machine last week, and it's going to take me 6 weeks to get a new one. If we had digital identities, it might be a lot easier. Yeah.
That's what we would like to do as well. So all of that is actually on a prototyping, sort of say, and whether the government gonna adopt it is another question. But like I said earlier, we're gonna go from technology to product to adoptions. Right? So Kardia will try our best to build the kinds of product people want, and then the adoption is gonna be the last phase, and usually the hardest phase.
Yeah, that's nice that you've got a plan to become the conduit between the old system and the new one, the blockchain. Okay, well, that was a good answer. We'll move on to the next question. Let's see, we'll go for it. Do you see Kai as a new currency in Vietnam coexisting with the Dong? If so, will this be a stable coin to avoid price fluctuation for transactions? Good question.
I think this is a quite tricky and sensitive question as well. So I wouldn't be able to provide a clear answer as a yes or no on a CBDC sort of say currency. But I know that for any countries that is usually bankless, that have a large populations of bankless, there's always a need to digitalize or to get more people paying digitally rather than just paying by cash, right? So CBDC currency is one way of approaching that. There's also another way, that is the mobile banking, the one that KardiaChain to build also. So right. So if you look into our neighbor, I just read an article last week that Cambodia actually issued the first CBDC.
I'll just clarify that CBDC is central bank digital currency, just for the guys watching in case they were unaware.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that.
No, you're okay. It's fine.
I should have been clear. Right. So actually Cambodia just issued a CBDC last week in order to have tackling the non-bank sort of populations. They provide a solution with hyperledgers infrastructure and try to solve the very much problem that Vietnam has today. Of course, I don't know whether Vietnam going to adopt that methodologies or not, but that is one very viable way to do things. If they're gonna go in that approach anytime, I think Kardia can help, right? Not necessarily by using Kai, but provide any consultant advisory and our experience in building such system.
Yes, and also the interoperability, of being able to link all these networks rather than the CBDC just being siloed. That might be able to direct across all these different platforms. Okay, so we will move on to supply. There's a supply question. So the current supply is only around 60K per Vietnamese citizen. Somebody's done their maths. Are we likely to be transacting in fractions in Kai in the future?
Yeah, good luck to see that. So actually Vietnamese has more than 100 millions populations. So it's more like 50 Kai, I think. Yeah, so of course, I mean, one advantage of cryptocurrency is once the supply, we can have it divisible, right? Yeah. Right now, I don't see that need just yet. I think it's gonna take a while to get to the levels of hundreds of millions people using Kai. Our goal is to have 1 million user pretty soon. But even so, I don't see the need in any foreseeable futures. But when the time comes, we're ready. We definitely can do that. We can do up to 18 decimal.
That's awesome. 1 million users pretty soon is nice to hear. Sounds great. Okay, I think that's it for the questions. Yes, sorry, I've missed that one. KardiaChain aims to reduce entry barriers to onboard non-crypto users onto blockchain via user-friendly payment channels. Can you give some examples of these payment channels? How far into the development are they? And when can we expect to see them up and running? Good questions.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I sort of touched on that in a previous answer about the work with the telco to provide the mobile banking, right? So people can actually use their mobile account to pay for certain things. So so one thing they can definitely buy is Kai. Once we complete rolling that out. I think
expect that to happen soon?
Well, I mean, again, it comes to the period of technologies, product, and adoptions. We were way ahead in the development and products. I think our product is ready to. It's actually in beta testing phase, and we think we're quite ready for productions. It's just more on the rollout schedule that and on the legal clearance of the different business priorities and things that we have to see. We don't know the exact time frame yet. We're still hoping for some time this year to have at least some kinds of testing phase or some announcement about that.
Okay. in regards to when these products get released, will the branding and the marketing and stuff be done via, through yourselves or through both? Will the telco companies advertise just as usual?
Um, it, I, I can't, sort of like say the exact details on these due to NDA conditions and such.
Okay.
But usually working with a sort of like big telco or government bank, they have many different rules that you have to follow in
Okay.
both, announcement, advertisement, marketing, and such. We will try to have a balanced way, a good way of advertising the product for KardiaChain.
Okay.
In what exact manner, I don't think we completely know yet. So we have
Okay.
to wait.
Last thing I was wanting to touch on before you go is Galeximco. I wrote about the Galeximco partnership in one of my articles, and they're such a large enterprise in Vietnam. Is there anything more happening on that front?
Yeah, so there definitely progress on that front. But our news and announcement pipeline is quite packed from now to the end of the year. I do expect to hear some update on the progress over there in the next month or so, I would say.
Okay.
It's just more like we will organize the announcement in the pipeline in a strategical way.
Yeah.
And
Feed us.
right. So so for the Let's Simco, we definitely will provide some update pretty soon.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, thank you very much again, Huy, for speaking to me. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but we've got there in the end.
No, it's great talking to you. Thank you very much, Bankless.
You too. I'll talk
All
to you
right.
soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you.